I was at a conference in Austin about 2 weeks ago, and I met I was going to call her a salesperson, but she was an educator par excellence, Vincent. And she just, after just talking to her about school improvement, she just volunteered to sponsor this meeting. And I was like, wow, would you do that? I mean, just first impression, she said, absolutely, we would love to sponsor the meeting. I'm going to send an email to WC and get him out there to Houston and talk to charter schools in your area. So we're grateful and thankful for this opportunity. Matter of fact, I think he's coming to my school on next Tuesday to meet with my principal. I think we have a testimonial from Dr. Dunn, because I think Dr. Dunn is already using Achieve 3000. So thank you, WC, and we are looking forward to your presentation.
All right, well, thank you very much. I think I have about 15 minutes, so I'm going to rush through it, and I know that everybody's eating, so I'm going to keep it very informal, okay? As you look on the screen right now, though, I like you to just look, and you see the careers, but you also see these numbers popping up. I'm not sure, maybe Dr. Dunn would know what these numbers are. Does anybody want to take a guess or a stab at what those numbers that are pulling up are? Anyone? Just a guess is okay. You just sat down, just a guess.
Number of jobs that will be open in the near future.
Number of jobs. No, but that's a good guess. Anyone else? They are Lexile levels. All right? They are the Lexile levels that go along with that particular career. All right, so is everybody familiar with Lexiles? Okay, so what we are is I'm going to Achieve 3000. We are a web-based literacy program. Differentiated instruction, grades 2 through 12. We also do adult education, but we're web-based. Let me say that again. So your students can access us anywhere they can get on the web, whether it's, I see a lot of iPads and tablets here, whether it's an iPad or a tablet, whether it's an iPod, an iPhone, or a Droid, or of course, your regular internet. All right, so you can access our program, your students can access our program anywhere. We want to prepare your students for college and career readiness, but I know that everywhere I go, they're always worried about high-stakes tests, ACT, SAT, STAAR. We prepare your students for those every day, but we don't stop teaching and do a step up to STAAR or get ready for that. We try to routinize those skills each and every day that you're in our program. What we basically want to do is close the achievement gap. I know we heard some speakers earlier talking about those achievement gaps. We want to close that achievement gap. And if you notice on this picture, that student is jumping, but it's actually a jump that they can make, right? And that's what we want to make them do. All right, so we're a differentiated instruction program, but we go across the content areas. All of our text is nonfiction expository text. We partner with Associated Press to deliver articles at 12 levels in English and 7 levels in Spanish. So you get a total of 19 levels for each particular article. They're across the content area. So we're talking about nonfiction. We're going to hit you on science. We're going to hit you on social studies almost each and every day, okay? All right. This chart right here is talking about college and career readiness. Now, I know one of the speakers earlier, she was talking about TOBS, right? So remember about TOBS, and we moved from TOBS to TACS, correct? When we were graduating students with TACS, we could graduate literally a commended student at an 1100 to 1120 Lexile level. That's where that student was graduating commended. So let's think about the mindset of that student feeling pretty good, maybe one of those little honor corps or something because they're a commended student, right? Well, they're going to college. And college, you need a 1300, right? Some of the remedial classes, maybe 1220, somewhere off in there. So let's think about that student that graduated from your school commended at 1100, 1120. They go off to college, and then they're automatically in remedial classes. So you may come back, let's say around January, February, it's basketball season, and you're doing your duty, you're at the game, checking out your team, and you look up and you see one of your little babies that graduated, he or she comes up to you, give you a little hug or a handshake, and all of a sudden it hits you, why are you here at this game? That's you typically because they dropped out of college or they had to come back home. It's typically not a financial issue, it's a performance issue. We are not preparing those students for college and career readiness, and that's I'm sure what everybody here wants to do. That's what our program will help you do. Actually, this retail sales right here, this always gets me when I see this. This is the retail sales handbook for the limited and the gap. It's written at a 1270 Lexile level. So let's go back and think about that student we graduated, commended with an 1120 Lexile score. We truly have prepared that student to work at the gap. They're their college and career, right? I talked about non-fiction informational text already. I'm just gonna come over here. The first thing that we do is we level set your student. Basically, that's a quick assessment to get your student's Lexile score in non-fiction text. You might have some programs where you have a Lexile score for your student. Almost every time I go to a district, the score is a little lower when they take it in our program because the other Lexile score incorporates fiction and non-fiction. But let's talk about the college and career readiness component again. How many of you all in your job read fiction? In your job?
Oh, not on my job.
Yeah, on your job. We're talking about job. Now, not your personal time, on your job. And we're trying to get those kids college and career ready, so we can't feed them a lot of fiction. We want to feed them expository text, non-fiction text. So when they take our assessment, the test is going to rope the student up or down. Let's say I'm a sixth grader. I'll use sixth grade because it's just the middle of the road today. So I'll use sixth grade. I'm a sixth grader, but I may be reading on a third or fourth grade level. I'm sure you all don't have that in your campuses, but there are other districts that do. Maybe even a sixth grader reading on a first or second grade level. Sometimes you might have a sixth grader reading on a 9th, 10th, 11th grade level. We're going to find their actual Lexile score, and everything that they receive from that point forward is going to cover their grade level standards, but it's going to be delivered on their Lexile level, on their readability level. Basically what we do is we deliver these articles each and every day. We partner with Associated Press. The articles are going to be relevant for that particular student. If I'm that sixth grade student reading on a second, third grade level, I was talking to someone in the back, I don't want to read about Jack and Jill. I want to read about what's really going on, what's more age appropriate for me. And so each one of our systems will deliver that content that's age appropriate for that particular student, but also covers his or her grade level T's. All right? I'll just touch on this briefly, but we do Figure 19 each and every day. So every time you're worried about your teachers, because I'll say this, I'm talking about differentiated students, right? But as we know, some of our teachers are differentiated as well. We have some really good teachers. We have some really teachers that are doing okay, right? That's just what it is. So we want to help those teachers as well. We provide lesson plans every day, but not just that lesson plan. Why are you doing this? What is the purpose of this? We break that down for each and every one, but we touch Figure 19 each and every day. If you're worried about STAAR, you should be worried about Figure 19, and we're here to help. All right, rigor. Is everybody worried about rigor? I know every district I go to, when I talk to teachers, they're just so tired. Everybody, all their principals and superintendents are just feeding them rigor. What does that mean to them? They don't understand what that rigor is. At Achieve 3000, we like to talk about simple rigor. We want to make it very simple for the teacher to implement, but we want to make the instruction more rigorous for the student. And when we do that, we have a 5-step process that we follow each day. Here, I'll take a sidebar here. The fidelity for our program is twice a week, about 45 to 50 minutes each period. Okay, 2 times a week, 45 to 50 minutes. In that process, we're taking the students through a process here. So initially, what we're going to do is we're going to select the instructional model and the focus each and every day. Then we're going to help that student build background knowledge, discuss and model. We have a gradual release model. That's basically what we're about. We're going to discuss and model that rigorous text. We're going to release it to the student and guide them as they work. And then we're going to discuss and write each day. So if you're worried about writing, this program is writing. I mean, the first step they do is write, informal, before they get into the formal. All right? We want to share that responsibility of the reading. Let's think about this. Now, in our elementary, and I'm an old high school teacher and I'm an old high school principal. I never did elementary, but I always worked with them. Elementary teachers, all of them are bubbly, they're really good, fun. They all want to teach reading, right? They're all reading teachers. You start getting into middle school, high school, that secondary level, it's teachers are focused, right? But they're like little professors. They're not worried about reading or anything else. They're worried about what's their content area. If I'm a science teacher, I'm worried about science. If I'm an English teacher, I'm worried about English and that's it. But they're not really worried about the student becoming a better reader, right? It's not my job, I teach science. What we want to do is we want to share that responsibility and allow your science teachers, your social studies teachers to include that literacy, that writing, and that reading in their particular classroom, but still cover their standards. We don't want to make it easy. Like I said, we want to make that rigor a little bit more simple. This chart right here, this research comes from ACT. It slaps me in the face every time I see it. If your students are unprepared in reading, look at the chance of success in science or math that they're going to have. So think about that student. Let's say I'm a 9th grader, but I'm still reading on 4th and 5th grade level. What am I going to do? I know we've all had conversations with maybe our children or our nieces, nephews, or cousins, and we ask them at some point, maybe they're in 3rd or 4th grade, hey baby, what do you want to be? Oh, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer, right? You can wait about another 5 or 6 years to ask that same student what they want to be. Sometimes you're going to be, oh, I still want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer. But sometimes that thing has changed because it's due to their success in school. Like, I don't want to do that, I want to be a cowboy. Not that that's bad, but what I'm saying is that they changed. And that's typically because of their readability level. Right? Like I said, we want to share that responsibility across those content areas. So what I'll do now, how much time do I have, Mr. Robles? Do I have about 5-7 minutes left? What I want to do is I'm going to kind of skip around here, but I want to go directly into the program just to kind of show you the program here. But before I do that, let's look at some results because I know I might run out of time. The results, they're true. This is our overall Lexile growth. You see here, the expected growth each year for overall student is 53 points. At Achieve 3000, we almost double that each and every year. And that's with 2 times a week. If you want more growth, use the program more. Right? We have, like you talking about testimonies, we have testimonials from all type of districts all over the nation about the more they use, the more success that they have. This right here is a Lexile by grade level. And I won't spend too much time on it because here, in your handouts today, each one of you all received this handout. The reason I really wanted to give you this is, one, to show you these charts and the research and the results that we're getting, but also, instead of giving you a card at the bottom, there's my name and contact information right there, so you won't lose it, because I've been sitting here seeing somebody give me a card and I can't find it when I need it. So here's my contact information here. So what I want to do is I just want to go directly into the program for a second and show you. So I logged in right here as a 6th grade teacher. This is live right here. This is not a demo. Well, this is my demo account. This is not a screenshot here. So basically, everything is going to be delivered in a closed email environment. Okay? So you never have to worry about any spam or anything like that. There's not going to be any advertisements or something extraneous for that particular student. But we go here and we want to start the lesson. So the first thing we do in that lesson, I'm just going to kind of walk you all through a quick 5-step process that we do with the student. The first thing that they do is, everybody heard of Carol Ann Thompson? She's a differentiated, instruction guru, but she's also a consulting officer to our program. She says if you want students to write better, the first thing you should allow them to do is write in a non-threatening environment. What's more non-threatening than an email or a blog or something like this? So what we're doing here is, before we even start reading, we want to set the background knowledge schema, but also get that student engaged in the article by asking them a question, right? So what is it? Something is worth exploring simply because it's there. Do you agree or disagree? I'm going to disagree, and I'm going to say why, right there. That's Swedish, right there, just go on. But now, what I want to do is I want to go to the article. So can you all see that article? All right, what I want you to do is just take a little moment to read maybe the first 2 paragraphs. And I'll leave it there kind of while I talk a little bit there. But this article is for a 6th grade student that's reading on 6th grade level. That actually has, I think, maybe about 1180 Lexile score. Okay? This is for that student that's on level. So now, hopefully you had a chance to read it. I'll leave it there while you do that. You see these little icons? I call them little recycle icons. But they're things that we do automatically each day as good readers, right? We summarize as we read. We want to generate questions. We can also set the purpose here and take notes. All right, so I can take notes each day because I know if all of you are the superintendents, at some point you were a teacher. And I know you've been in the classroom where you're like, what was WC thinking when he answered that? Now, this kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of what that particular student was thinking, or if you have students that were anything like WC was when I was in school. I hated writing stuff twice. I hated taking notes because I knew I had to write it twice. That was my issue. I was like, I don't want to do it twice. I want to work smarter, not harder. But now, these notes that you see here, when I get to my formal writing, those notes are going to transfer to that writing. So I'm going to scroll down just to kind of let you see the length of the article, because one of the things we knew after that first assessment of STAAR was students didn't have their reading stamina. They were getting fatigued in reading, right? So we want to help you with that particular stamina. After we read the article, we go directly to the activity. Activity is going to be 8 questions. It's going, let me go back, because I want to show you the power here. Go back to this article. So remember, this article for a 6th grade student that's reading on 6th grade level, right? So now, as a teacher, I can scroll up, and let's say I'm a 6th grader, and I'm reading on 2nd grade level. So now, does the article look the same just at first glance? Yes? It does, just at first glance. Think about your kids, they walk in the computer lab, everybody, all your kids know who's the smartest kid in the room, right? They always do. I walk in, and let's say I'm not that smartest kid. I walk in and I'm just gonna peek over at the smartest girl in the class on the computer and see if she's doing the same thing I'm doing. Because typically some of those kids, they get called and they get pulled out, or they're in the bluebird group or the little red, yellow group, you know. None of that's anymore, because that's a hit to my self-esteem. I don't want to read. You know, I'm already a struggling reader. You're gonna pull me out and make me read something that's not age appropriate. I'm not gonna read. So now I have audio support for that particular article. But now it's differentiated for my lexile level. You'll see the vocabulary is different, the syntax is different. Even some of your vocabulary is going to be different. So after we do that, I go to the activity. After we all read, we go to activity, 8 questions, vocabulary, comprehension, critical thinking skills right there. We want the student to be in the zone of proximal development, so they cannot guess at the question. If they miss the question twice, we're going to give them the correct answer and move them forward. If that response comes from the text evidence, we'll also show them the text evidence and move them forward too. That's kind of like that old Mark and kill those stuff there. So I'll kind of skip over there. Here's after reading, there's the poll. Just that quick poll, because we asked you what you thought before a question, before you read. Now we want you to do this because think about STAAR. With the STAAR now, you have to be able to state your opinion, but you have to be able to argue for or against that opinion. And we are helping those students do that here each and every day. So now here's my thought question. Here's my formal writing. We're going to give you a rubric each day. Remember those notes that I typed in? Here they are right here. So little hard heads like WC in your class that don't want to take notes, I can take those notes and transfer, and I feel like I'm working smarter and not harder. All right? Then we go to the poll results, because now what we want to do is we want to come back whole group to our teacher. They can look at the results from each individual as the class, but also the national results. So we can compare ourselves right here in Texas to students in other places, all right? Now, we're a literacy program. I said we go across the content area. We will help you with your financial literacy, but we are not the math solution, all right? Because I travel all over the state, and everybody's always looking for literacy, and they're always looking for math. So we want to help you with math. What we're going to do is we're going to give you a question each day. It's going to be differentiated as well on that particular student's grade level. But there's just a question each day, because I get so many students that used to tell me, just say, my mom told me she hadn't used algebra since she graduated from high school. You know, why am I doing this? So now we just want to start tying in those real world equations with the math that they're doing now. Okay, so we talked about that student, let's say 6th grader on 3rd grade reading level, lexile level, right? But now tax is gone. We moved past TOS, we moved past tax, because with tax we had tax alt, tax mod, all that. STAAR doesn't care about that. If you're a 6th grader, you're gonna take this 6th grade test. You better be ready for it. So now what we do, we have a stretch article. It's that same article, but now it's delivered on that student's grade level. So first they may have saw that article written at their particular lexile level, their readability level, but now they're getting it at their particular grade level. If I'm a student that's already on grade level, this stretch article is going to go a grade level or 2 up to continue to stretch me. If I'm an AP or a GT student, the same thing. We're going to continue to stretch it. Okay? So I think that's pretty awesome right there. So now, I said we read this first page in my reading English language arts class, right? But now I want to take this article into my science class, so I go to page 2, and what we've done here is dig deeper. Now we're focused on, that's still that article, but on that particular subject area's content, all right? So that's the 5-step process that we want you to do, that we want your students to do. It takes about 45 minutes. Does anybody have any questions about anything? Because I know I'm kind of out of time and so much more I can show you. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now, with these programs, these type of programs, what is the follow-through on the teacher side? For example, what type of training do you have for the teachers? How often do you speak with the teachers? How often do you speak with the principal regarding the results? And I know that all of these programs come with reports, but a lot of times reports isn't the whole thing, because reports can be sitting out there in la la land, where you walk through and you observe or do something as far as ensuring that everybody consistently uses the program so that you can gain that 50% increase.
Okay. Now we do that kind of a couple of ways, but I'll speak to your question initially first about the training of the teachers. The training is in all about, we're going to give you one cost, and everything is embedded in that cost. You don't have any hidden fees or anything like that. We're going to come out and train your teachers on the program, how to use it, stuff like that. After they've level set and had a couple of weeks with the program, after their students have started going in, then we're going to come back and do a second day of training to disaggregate the data, help that teacher see what his or her questions were, but we can also do model lessons and stuff like that for them as well.
Okay.
Also, go ahead.
Okay, so there's not like a one full day or several days of training where you show the teacher the system. Okay, this is how you implement it. Okay.
Yes.
Now the teacher, it has to be the student to take different units to make sure that they understand the process as well as the students. You see what I'm saying? Because a lot of times with these type of programs, it's like, okay, here are all the bells and whistles, and we offer this, this, and this. And you have that one day training, and you expect everything to flow, but it doesn't flow. And you come back, boom, and you do all of this.
We're going to give you a minimum of 2 days of training. Plus, we have all kind of, in the program, there is a training and support system. Let me go here. There's a training and support right here. And they can visit a learning center. Let's say I'm a teacher and I'm a seasoned teacher. I've been teaching for 15, 20 years, but the last 10 years I've been teaching science.
Yeah.
And so now I'm coming to your school, your district, and you need me to teach science, but you also need me to teach reading as well. I used to teach reading, but I forgot, first of all, classrooms are totally different than 5 years ago to 10 years ago. But I can go in and go through a module on comprehension, how to teach comprehension, how to teach vocabulary. I can do it on my own time on a Saturday morning while I'm still in my pajamas, go through the module, take the questions at the end, and I can get CEUs for that as well. So the district or the teacher didn't have to, let's say, come, I don't know who's here, but I didn't have to come paid, let's say Region 4 or Sam Houston State or somebody to come in and help me do that. They can always call us. We're right here in the United States, so it's a quick call. Did I answer your question? I don't know if I did.
No. No, okay.
Yeah, we are going to train your teachers, and we're going to make sure that they can use the program
Okay,
with
so are
fidelity.
you ever in there with the teacher and the children as the teacher?
If you want us to, we'll do model lessons. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, we'll come in and do model lessons for you.
Not
For the teacher.
necessarily no, I'm not saying model lessons.
Oh,
I'm
definitely.
saying this,
Oh.
within the program,
Mhm.
if you're saying that your results 50%, okay, but that's based on something. That's based on if they're using it
With
twice
fidelity,
a week.
twice a week.
If they're using all the A, B, C, D, or whatever checklist you need to go through every day, then you utilize the system.
Mhm.
So is there ever time where you are observing the teacher, facilitating this with the children and seeing how they're interacting? I mean, or is it just a system where the children just do it for 45 minutes and there's no interaction?
No. There's teacher, this is not a program where your teacher sends kids to the computer lab and walks away and gets an extra conference period. Is that what you're asking?
So therefore, are you ever in the classroom with the teacher as the teacher's teaching this to the children?
We can be, yes. Every implementation is different, so it kind of depends on what support that you need.
Okay.
Some districts don't need that, or some classrooms don't need it, and some of them we're in there a little bit more because we need to be. We've had trainers go in and spend the whole day at the campus, and they monitored a classroom and then sat with their teacher during the conference period, or sat with the whole department and just did different things.
Okay.
So hope I got to.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
So the kids start out by taking a lexile assessment
Yes, ma'am.
with nonfiction.
With nonfiction.
Okay.
Basically what it is
So
is a
now-
passage, you just simply answer the question and move them on to the next one.
Okay, so as they move through, because your thing says that they're ongoing assessments. So as they move through the reading levels, the lexile levels, they're assessed at what point?
They're assessed each and every day. That activity
So
is
they're
kind of
assessed
like,
every day?
Mhm, that-
So every day they have an opportunity to have a different lexile level?
not necessarily every day, but it takes a while. Remember that activity I said we want those students to be in that zone of proximal development? So let's say a student is taking those activities, and about 4 or 5 activities, they've scored between a 90 and 100 4 or 5 times in a row. The program is gonna automatically rope that student up, move that student up. It's gonna send the teacher and the administrator a message saying, hey, WC has progressed so far, and he's now on a 1220 lexile level. So the program's gonna automatically move me up.
So there's no point where,
There is a
is there a
post-assessment.
point where the child is given another, like, another benchmark assessment that shows the lexile growth?
Yes, you're gonna take that level set exam that I talked about. You'll take it, the initial level set. If your students are on track in that semester, so about 40 activities, which is about 2 activities a week, so 40 in a semester, you can take a mid-year level set.
Okay,
And then you're also gonna take that post-year level set at the end of the year.
okay, and then when you look at those levels,
Mhm.
do you do any sort of correlation with how the students are doing with the needs or?
Yes, ma'am. That's kind of-
standards based on the lexile?
Yes.
Okay.
That's kind of where I was going with this right here. I ran a report on how my students performing on standards. So I can look at each individual standard or benchmark here, right? So there, I'll just pick one. What is this? Here, I'll just grab it. I can open this up and populate my class. So you see these categories here: no items completed, aggressive intervention, additional practice, and mastery demonstrated. These are, I'm in the 6th grade, so these are my 6th grade objectives. So here's my class. I have 50% that mastery is demonstrated, additional practice, so on and so forth. So you all do benchmarks, I'm sure. You do those benchmarks, you give them to your teachers, and probably not in any of your school districts, but in the other districts that I've worked in, if you give the teachers benchmarks, they either come sign for them or they're in their box, they get them, they look at them, oh, I knew WC was gonna be struggling. You go back in their class and they're sitting up under a stack of papers. They are not using that data to lead their instruction, right? And that's that's the whole purpose of those. So here's the data right here, right? This is the objective, this is how I'm doing, but what do I do with that? As a teacher, do I start flashing lights? Do I talk slower and louder? What do I do to do that? Do I start calling you to try to intervene? So now what I've done is I press that assign button, and what comes up is the standard, that particular benchmark that we were looking at. Here's each student, here's their reading level. I'm in a demo account, but it would also have their lexile score right there. You see that slash, that's where
So
that's
these are actual teeth or?
Yes.
Or standards?
These are actual teats. And here, I'll go back here. I'll go back into where we were in the program. And so let's look about that article that we were looking at earlier, right? As a teacher, I can press this standards key. And so now I know that in that article that we read, here are my English language arts and reading teats. Here are my STAAR eligible teats. Here are my ELPS, college and career readiness standards. There, I'm going across the content because this article touched on science. So here are my science objectives that we covered. We also covered some social studies objectives just in the reading of that article.
Okay. And so is it gonna tell us how kids did on that objective with that article? Does it?
No, you can look that up, or like I just did here when I went to admin and I ran that report and I looked up how are my students performing on standards. So I can do that for an individual student or a whole class. If I'm an administrator, I can do it for my whole building.
Okay.
Or multiple schools, I can look at multiple schools. I'm just saying as a teacher. But a superintendent will have his or her own login as well. That principal as well. So I can go and look and say, okay, class 1 really did well on the STAAR, class 2 didn't. Let's go look and see what they did and achieve. And you may see class 2, they didn't have the usage, or they were not using the program with fidelity. So then that's a conversation that, and she asked that question there, that's a conversation that the principal would have with them. We're gonna send you an email encouraging you to use more. If you're not, we'll be red flag. but it's also the job of the teacher and the principal to make sure that you all are implementing it as you want on your campus.
Now, within your programs, would you have, like articles or information, guidance for teachers on your portal where they can go and get, suggestions on how to use this data or how to move kids forward?
Yes, ma'am. Here, I'm going to go back into that lesson like we did earlier. Right at point of view, so you see on each tab right here, as I click, you see these supporting resources? Here are the teacher recommendations. Here are all those materials. Here's the vocabulary right here. There's some extras. But it changes depending on where we are in that particular article, right? In that 5-step process. But also, before I can even get into the article as a teacher, I can look at my curriculum key. So I know that regardless of the level that that student was on, here are the key concepts that each and every one of those students are going to get in that class. Here are my academic vocabulary over here, comprehension materials. So there's a graphic organizer, poll discussion, but here are some cross-curricular extensions as well. But as I scroll down, typically there are special recommendations, right? But we also have different scaffolds and additions for your different types of students. I'm just going to click on it here. But let's say like I'm in my general team business. Team business for middle school. But I also have enrichment for those students that are special education, 2 or 3 more levels below level. No, I'm sorry, enrichment is for my AP, gifted and talented students. Intervention for those students that are receiving special education services. And language for, let's say, my bilingual or ESL students as well. I think I'm out of time, but anybody have any other questions or anything? Thank you. All right, well, thank you very much. If you have any questions or anything, please feel free to contact me. I can send you a demo code. I'll be more than happy to come to your campus and actually give you a presentation through the program because there's so much more I wasn't able to show you. Your teachers or your students can search on articles that they want to read about. Let's say I'm a student, and I'll end right here. I'm a student and it's football season. So I'm a little boy, I'm a struggling reader, but I don't want to read what you're giving me, teacher. I want to read about football. So I can go in, type in football, and do a quick search. And it's going to give me 70 articles, I think, yeah, 70 articles that have something to do with football. So that's good because we really want that struggling reader to read. But as a teacher, I can go into my advanced options, and she was talking about standards, so let's say it's standard. So WC wants to read about football, but I want to make sure that he's covering, let's say, his language arts standards. Right, so I can go and look up a particular standard, or let's say I want to look up a science standard, right? He wants to read about football, I need him to get his science objectives in. So I can do another search here with football. I typed in that science. So now it's going to narrow it down to show me which articles are covering those particular objectives as well. It automatically sends it to the student on his or her level. Yes, ma'am. All right. Well, thank you all for your time. I'll be in the back for a little bit if you have any questions. And actually, I think there's Southwest Schools in here too, I heard. We're used at Southwest Schools.
Yes.
We're used Dr. Dunn here at Girls and Boys Prep. We're used at a few other charter schools as well, some of the KIPP schools, Sanchez, AMA, just here in this area. But we're used all across the state and the nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Dee from HCDE will talk to us about special tools.
Everyone, if you recall, last time we visited in October, I think last year, we talked about our 2 special type schools. And you asked me, and let me repeat what those schools are in case we got a new person. Academic and Behavior Centers, which is our center for our schools for special education or students with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And then we have our 2 campuses, our 2 type schools. The second one is High Point, which is our disciplinary alternative certification program, disciplinary alternative education program. You said to me, D, the costs are high. Is there any way that we can get together as a charter group collaborative and the cost can be reduced, or some kind of, present you some kind of avenue that would be special for the charter schools? Jesus and I talked about that, and last couple of weeks or so, I said, okay, what can we offer that will still be equitable and still maintain the integrity of our programs for the school districts? I'd like for you to consider these two options, and then I'd like to provide some time for you to provide me an option that you think might work. One, currently each seat is $19,900 for our ABC. That's for sending students to us who have intellectual or developmental disabilities or autism, any of those spectrums. The second type is $9,700 for our disciplinary alternative education program, our DAEP. The barrier to both of those would be transportation. We understand that. We may need to work out some things on transportation, because as we stand now on both of our programs, the school district provides transportation. Okay, so we'll need to kind of work around that, and I have some ideas, and you can probably give me some ideas. But looking at the cost, if you have a need to send one or more students from your charter school to our DAEP or ABC, this is an option that we can consider. If you're part of the co-op, and I know you are because that's why you're here, one option could be is that the co-op buys one seat. One option, buys one seat. That one seat for an ABC is about $115 a day. We could work it where you would be paying, if you want to send, you want to purchase one seat, that's going to be in our agreement. This charter school may say, okay, I have a kiddo that I need to go. You may have a kiddo that I need to go. So you're really having two students, but you've only purchased one seat for the co-op. We could work it where we're paying maybe $115 a day for so many days, the same as for you, but not going over the $19,900. Another way to approach it is to buy one seat per charter, and we'll run that particular seat all year long, and those seats can be interchangeable. You may have a kid, you only bought one seat for your particular charter, but you can, one student needs to go 10 days, another student may need to go 30 days, that's that same seat. You're not changing, you're not paying any more money. So, an option that would work in our heads, that may be appropriate for co-op members only be for you, because we got to maintain the integrity of the program. And what options do you have? What barriers did you see? Oh, transportation. You said, okay, transportation is an issue. There might be some things that we could do. Some of you have buses. You might get charterize that bus and work it from there, from each of you. You live in a particular school district, you might co-op with that school district. We do not allow our students to come in by cars. However, working with the co-op, we get special permission, then we could more than likely assist you by allowing drop-off by car. Talk to me.
I was just wondering about, if we, let's say I bought a seat, or girls and boys preparatory purchase a seat, and we communicate amongst each other pretty well. that child, and that seat is for the whole year. That child is only there 4 weeks. But I talked to Yvette, and one of her boos needs to go. If she and I work out something where she reimburses me for that day, can she use that space I purchased?
That is exactly part of part one.
Good.
If you're part of the co-op,
Okay,
we can allow that to happen.
okay,
I don't see an issue with that, Mason. That was one of the things we talked about, that you partnering.
yeah,
You use so many days, you use so many days.
Okay.
That's it, 175 days in a year for our schools.
okay. Oh, yeah.
Any other things that we maybe need to think about? What's online, you just go right up there to division, special schools division, and you'll see our programs, who to contact. You have a sheet, my name is at the bottom there, or at the top, telephone numbers, email addresses. If this is something you think you may be interested in, then we can get together and really consolidate that.
Only
So that
only for the ABC schools, but the other one is not applicable, right?
Okay, both of them will be applicable.
Well, charters don't have DAEPs.
Well, again, I said, if you have a need for students, and if you can't do in-school suspension, you know, once you go above in-school suspension, what happens to your kid? Come out on the street?
Expel them to the school district.
Okay. Again, if you have a need to not do that and do something else,
Yes.
here we go.
Here we go. You have the answer for us.
Yes,
That
And
would work.
You broke it down so it could be more reasonable for us.
Yeah.
Correct.
We really appreciate that. I remember from last year.
That would give you a good intermediate option, because out-of-school suspension becomes an expulsion after 5 days. So you'd have to rewrite your codes of conduct, because we're not under the DAEP statutes. Those don't apply to the charters. But you could rewrite your student code of conduct for an alternative placement. We're just making it up. It's not a statutory thing. But that way you don't lose the kid. You just send them away for 5 to 10 days, and then they get to come back. You don't have to expel to the street if you don't want to.
Yeah, I can speak for myself, and in talking to some other charter vendors, I think a lot of us are running into the same thing with parents. We're getting a lot of high-need special education students that
You have all types of disorders.
yeah,
Like
seriously.
the behavior,
And-
defiance, whatever.
Seriously, and we can't turn them away. You know, we have to serve them as best we can, but it gets to a point where we have to start looking for another option.
We've established a special ed co-op for charter schools in San Antonio that has about 20 charter schools in it, and it now actually has 3 school districts have joined, because the charter schools co-op is better than the school district's co-op. And then we've got one in Dallas going too, but who has the most robust special ed program in the room? Do any of you have what you would consider a strong special ed program?
We have a
Well,
pretty large.
I think it depends, like for me, we have a very small school. So you have we have 7 children with special needs. But those 7 kids need 7 different services
Right.
each. You see what I'm saying? And a
Right.
lot of those services have to do with all type of counseling and behavior and drug therapy and all this other stuff that is quite, right. It's quite difficult for us to service them to that degree individually for each individual thing that they
Yeah,
have.
you just don't have the resources. You have the same problem the rural school districts have and the small school districts. They can't find anyone.
And she's elementary too.
Yeah.
And I'm elementary, and like recently, I was sharing with Ms. Cushingberry this new behavior, explosive behavior with child comes in throwing chairs and defiance behavior, which is oppositional defiance, with the parents come in and tell you, well, they have a bad behavior disorder, you know, things that you've never even heard of, and every time
Yeah.
the child anytime the child is corrected or anytime the child is told no, then the child explodes and throw chairs and all that. Where are you gonna put,
He must have come to your school.
where are you gonna put a child there when you're full to the brim, you don't have any space at all other than the actual hallway where the students are?
Well, one thing that you can do to build that capacity, because individually you don't have that, you can actually, one of you could step up and say, we will be the fiscal agent for this special ed co-op, and all of you will pool all your special ed funding. We'll go to the fiscal agent. You'll set up a board. It'll be the superintendents. You'll all be on that board. You'll pool all your special ed funding, and that fiscal agent will go contract with the special ed providers, the LSSPs, the diagnosticians.
Okay, we're not even talking about this. This child needs a space.
Yeah,
This child cannot be
yes,
in our.
and
we
the
don't have
co-op,
space.
the co-op can run a space. The co-op can establish like a campus for proper placements that you couldn't do individually, and you might, for one student you can't afford it, but the co-op can. But
It takes special personnel to operate a program like that.
Right.
I work discipline programs in HISD, and it's just, in a regular
No.
school district, you can't.
You can't do that, but see, in individually, your schools are too small to do that on your own. But I'm telling you, if 5 or 10 of you pull together, then between your financial resources, well, you also can't justify it for 1 or 2 kids.
No.
But between 10 of you, there might be 20 kids. And then at that point, the money's there because you've pooled, and you've got the person, you can hire the right people, from the outside to come in and do it.
Outside space, because if each
Yeah.
chart is full to the brim, and all 10 of you belong to the co-op, still, where are you going to put this child?
You're going to find space for it. And it may be that you contract with the district or someone else for the space, but they're still your student. They're just placed there by the IEP. The ARD committee has placed them. But you have to do that. You have to apply for that, I think, by February 1st with the TEA for the next
We were
year.
part of a co-op before, and we didn't have no charter that was a part of the co-op, the special ed co-op, had space, or even we didn't have enough people to be a part of the co-op where we could generate
The
some kind of rental.
The co-op doesn't work if it's just 3 or 4 of you. The co-op only works if it's like 10 schools that are in the special ed co-op. You've got to get critical mass to be able to do that. But I think you have the mass. You've got the people.
Well, for us, I mean, we do, this is the situation that we were in is exactly what any other school district would have done. Because I know traditional school districts do the same thing, get these, use ABC. And that was the situation we're in. We would need to actually join an SSA because we do all of our own in-house. It's just we had this one outlier, and it sounds like he came to you. And I told Dee, I said, back in the summer, I told the staff, if he comes back, we're getting a seat in Harris County. Because literally what we would have to do with this child is put him in a room by himself, move everything out of the way so he couldn't tear anything up or hurt anybody else. Seriously.
Hey, I'm gonna rock your world. Check this out.
And here's Joe, y'all. So Joe is in his presentation.
Dude, this counts as my presentation. What if you form a special ed co-op, and that special ed co-op joins the Harris County co-op and purchases the seats for any member of the co-op? That way you can have, it's not just, well, I don't need this seat right now. So I'm still paying for it because I'm in the co-op, but I don't need this seat right now. You form a co-op that will not only provide ABC placement, because the co-op itself doesn't provide ABC placement, it co-ops with their co-op to provide that placement. So it's a co-op within a co-op, and then your co-op's also doing the diagnostician stuff, the LSSP stuff, the experts come to the ARD committee, so you get the benefit of both of it, but you're pooling everything where you can actually afford it. And then you can go get the placements from Harris County. You can go there. Is it the Bay's House? There's a school here that does private placements that a lot of the school districts use. At least in San Antonio, we send our kids to Houston, or vice versa. But there's specialized placements. There's residential facilities that the co-op can place. But I think that's it depends on the student's needs. But the co-op can join a co-op And we do that all the time. I've got one co-op in San Antonio that literally, it co-ops with another co-op because that other co-op has the corner on all the really good occupational therapists. And so they said, well, we can't hire these occupational therapists, so we're going to co-op with that co-op to get them. It's just about layering, but to do special ed right under the law, a small school, a charter school, a small school district, you can't do it alone. I mean, you're out of compliance. And you get one complaint by a parent that knows their rights, I mean, it's devastating.
Got trouble, yeah.
Rich.
We've experienced a significant, the majority of our student population are pre-kindergarten students. And we experienced over the last 4 years a significant challenge by 3 and 4 year olds whose parents are in serious denial. And those students normally will become the kindergarten, first and second grade students that go other places.
Right.
And so what we've intentionally began year before last is to find a way to do an ECI program and also have that program at one of our campuses, because we can't do that program with other students that are not so challenged. And so I think that if we can have that conversation for those of us who do a significant number of elementary school students, because once you get to past second grade, then that becomes a significant challenge to have them in anybody's building, trying to provide that kind of services to students where parents are denying what is going on in their children. And so that's something that I would offer, because that's a part of our mission.
Right.
We need to start out early.
Well, that's what you look to. You look around at your neighbors, who is doing something better than you in a program area, and you say, well, I can't afford to invest in becoming the expert in that, but I can partner with them. And the co-ops, the charters are allowed to co-op all day long on any program. You can co-op in for HR services, you can co-op for back office business support, you can co-op for special ed, food services, transportation, technology. You name it, you can form those cooperatives. So it's about finding out who has that in-house ability already. And instead of trying to poach from them, right? Say, let's work together, let's share it, because then everyone's, and frankly, if there was anyone at the national conference when the Department of Education said they're not going to really be able to support the small charter schools anymore, national conference, that's what they're saying. If the charter schools don't get a bigger market hold, and if they're not impacting more students, we just don't have the time to be efficient to service the small charters. And then we got the state trying to bring in high-performing charters. These big corporations from out of state are bowling on in. You know, you've already got them here in Houston, but guess what? There's like probably 25 more in other states that are serving 25,000 kids. They want to come here because it's not about the kids. It's about market share, right? They're driven for that market share. So how do you do that? Are you going to be able to blow up to 3,000 to 5,000 kids overnight? Well, right now you start cooperating with each other. You start forming strategic partnerships, and the law allows that. You know, in San Antonio, Dallas, they're doing it because, frankly, in San Antonio, if you've read the news, we have 6 high-performing CMOs, coming into San Antonio that want to take over. They want to establish 60 campuses in San Antonio in the next 5 years. So the other charters, the community charters, they're having to get together.
And it's a shame they've done that, because they lose the whole purpose in the process. It's not, like you said, it's not about the kids. They don't know these kids personally. It's about the bucks they represent, which is
well, they've been told the state wants charters to serve more students.
And our association represents and promotes that.
Well, frankly, we need to serve more students.
Sure.
But you all haven't been allowed to grow. I mean, if the former commissioner had been approving your charter amendments, you'd have been there. That's the problem.
And facilities are a problem.
Yes, facilities
That's
are
always a problem. I had another question. So when these students who come from these other schools come with their discipline history problems, we still have that avenue if it's built into our charter agreement with the state. Am I correct, or has there been some kind of...
You still have that. So if it's in your charter, or you've amended your charter, and a student has a documented criminal record, or they have discipline problems under the education code. I don't know what discipline problems means. That's what it says. But you can kind of define that. If they've been out of school suspension, if they've been expelled, if they've been in a DAEP, then you can say you're not eligible to attend our charter school.
But by them being younger like that, a lot of times you don't have that. They just go from school to school to school.
That's a fact.
But
That's
you
the fact,
can't-
yeah.
You can't not accept a child with a disability because they're explosive.
No, not because of a disability, but if they've got a discipline problem, you're not excluding because of disability. You're saying, well, that other district held manifestation determination reviews. They found that the discipline issue was not because of your disability. Then you say, well, we need your special ed records, we need your discipline records. Well, sorry, you were still disciplined. The MDR was held. They found that it was not related to your disability. Therefore, because of your discipline problems, you're not eligible to go here. But you've got to be very careful. You got to walk that line. Otherwise, you're opening up to a lawsuit.
We're truly talking about sick kids here. I mean,
Yeah,
like,
these
kids
kids,
really
right.
need that small setting and that we just don't.
Well, and there's the new law allows special ed charter schools.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know who was going to take it up on that because there's not like more money for it, and they cost a lot more to educate. But you're right.
Well, there was gonna
Not
be a
only
meeting.
that, it's, those parents' expectations can be sometimes really
Well,
unmanageable.
the parents are taught by the advocates and by the attorneys for parents. Those of you that have been dealing with them, we know who they are. They're great people, right? But they've been taught that the school needs to give the mountain, right? But what the law gives is a base floor opportunity. The law provides the free appropriate public education does not cure the illness. It's provide enough opportunity that the student has an opportunity to receive an appropriate education. It's a floor. It's not a ceiling. But unfortunately, the market is pushing, oh no, you need to ask for this or that, and you need to know your rights so you can stand up. Mr. Roberts asked me to talk about Senate Bill 2, but I also am prepared to talk about whatever you want to talk about. I do want to give you an update on a case, and I probably only have like 5 minutes because I know we're over time. But yesterday, I was at the Court of Appeals in Dallas arguing a very important decision, and it was a Texas Whistleblower Act decision. Now, some of you probably remember from 2 years ago that we won, our firm, Bob Schulman and I argued before the Dallas Court of Appeals, representing Winfrey Academy, that the Whistleblower Act does not apply to charter schools. We won. Since then, that Universal Charter School case, LTTS, went up. In that case, Universal contracted with a construction company to come build their school. The construction company came in and built their school, but they never signed a contract. And Universal said, oh, we're not paying you. Okay? Well, then they didn't pay him, and the company sued, right? And then Universal hid and said, no, we have immunity. We don't have a written contract. Well, they also argued that we're governmental. We're a political subdivision. We're part of the government. And the courts denied it, but it went all the way up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, charter schools, you're not political subdivisions, you're not local government entities, but you are a governmental unit because the definition of governmental unit under this specific law is an organ of government, which is someone that performs a public function. So we're kind of like that, right? What happened with that case is it got kicked back down to the Court of Appeals in Dallas. And the Court of Appeals in Dallas is trying to figure things out. Because they also are looking at, the legislation says we have immunity from liability, but it says nothing about immunity from suit, meaning we aren't liable, but you can sue us all day long. Well, that's a problem. So the Court of Appeals said, well, if they're a governmental unit under this other law, then I guess they probably have immunity from everything. And then they use that to get us under the law. Well, the problem is that court decision created a bunch of knots. And so yesterday I made oral argument about a case we should win. Whistleblower Act does not apply to us, it's very clear. But the justices were very confused because they said, well, if we made you a governmental unit here, but you're not over here, that's inconsistent. It's inconsistent. And so one of the justices is like, well, I think you're probably a governmental unit. And I said, well, Your Honor, I appreciate that. With all due respect, I think that's incorrect. And here's what happens. If you make us a governmental unit under this law, where does it stop? Next, we're a governmental unit under takings claims. We're a governmental unit under elections code. We're a governmental unit under condemnation. We're a governmental unit under all sorts of other procurement laws that don't apply to us because they all use the same type of stuff. I said, so if you do that, charter schools are no longer separate. We're just another part of the government. We're basically just school districts by another name. And the justices were like, of course, the other side is like, oh, the slippery slope, Your Honors. We're so afraid of the slippery slope. And I said, look, I hate the slippery slope, but you put us on it. And we're sliding downhill. Your Honors, you need to save this and stop it because this is not what the legislator wanted. I'm alerting you to that. The school is Pegasus. You all know Pegasus. It's Virginia Land School. Give her some support. Give her a hug. We're going to be okay. But just be aware that, this case was decided improperly, not our case. The other case, I think, was decided improperly. The result we're happy with. We have immunity from suit. But sometimes we win the battle, but what we're really doing is setting up to lose the war. And we do not want to be governmental entities. We just don't want to. You're a nonprofit corporation. If you become the government, here's what's happening under Senate Bill 2. Under Senate Bill 2, they can come in and they can replace you. They can replace your board. The state can take over your school. If you're a private corporation, which you are, right? You have rights. You have constitutional rights. Your corporation has constitutional rights as a person. Just like all these other big corporations, when they get sued, oh, we're a person, right? And then Mitt Romney defends them, oh, they're persons, they're people just like us. Well, they're corporations, well, you're that. But all of a sudden, if you're the government, you don't have those rights. So we're watching this case. I want you to watch this case. We'll probably have an update. We might have an opinion by the time the charter conference comes around. I'm hoping it's a win. If not, we'll just be going to the Supreme Court again. But it's very important that we get this thing sorted out, as it will impact the decisions going forward. Now, do you all have specific questions about Senate Bill 2? I know you've heard a lot about it. Yes? Or any questions about anything, really?
Yeah, just what was the specific case that you were looking for? What was the suit?
The suit that I'm involved in,
The one that you just mentioned about.
the one I just mentioned, it's Pegasus, it's a whistleblower act claim. We have a disgruntled employee. Anyone have those?
Yeah.
We have a disgruntled employee that was fired for being a bad employee, and then a couple weeks later she says, oh, well, I'm the one that told TEA on you, and so I have whistleblower protections. And there's a government code provision that gives, it applies to school districts. If a school district, let's say I report unlawful conduct. You know, I go up to my supervisor, Lydia was stealing cafeteria money. And I report that, and then my superintendent says, hey, don't make any waves, you're fired. You know, if I'm working for a school district, that can't happen. What they're trying to do is stretch and apply this law to charters. Now, my thoughts are, what protections? It gives job protection, it gives back pay, things like that. But we know if the TEA sees unlawful conduct, what do? They shut you down, right? If they can prove unlawful conduct, that's a material breach of charter. We saw that up at Children's First in Dallas. In a matter of weeks, they shut that school down for health safety issues. And so that's what they do. And I say, well, what whistleblower protections are there then when the corporation's shut down? There's no job protection. They're out of business.
But what I don't understand is if it didn't come up until after the fact, why is it even an issue?
Because we can't prove that until we get into a trial.
Okay.
It's our word versus their word. It's one of those deals. You know, courts are messy.
Yeah, I mean, if we didn't, I mean, you're saying
Oh,
after this person
yeah,
was fired, then they say.
Because they've pled that they alerted it. They've pled that we told you about that before you fired. You knew.
Okay.
And the courts will just look at the pleadings just as they're written. You know, I don't get a chance to prove that we were right and they were wrong yet. You know, I'm trying to kill it before it even gets there.
Yeah.
So just watch out for that case.
Yeah.
A few other developments, Senate Bill 2 wise, you know, I can talk about Senate Bill 2 all day long if you want. It's a mess. There's a lot of information out there, but we're waiting on rules. A lot of the things about the revocations, a lot of the things about the charter renewal process, until they have rules written, I don't know if it's going to be implemented. I don't think it'll be implemented because they can't implement statute without rule. So just keep your eyes out for that. I know the attorney writing the rules for the TEA is really struggling with what to do, but I also know that there's philanthropists that are also helping write the rules for the high-performing schools. So there's a lot of people with interest trying to get in and write the rules. What I would encourage you to do is make sure you have a seat at the table, whether that's through the association or through maybe this group, that you have a seat at the table. When those rules come out, proposed rules, you know, we need to get in there and say, well, this is what the rules need to be for us. You need to make sure your voice is heard, because this will be the rules for the next 10 years. Other questions?
Well, Joe, what about the November 1st rule about some of the stuff that's said?
Some of the stuff,
Do we have to do it or? I'm asking.
which November 1st rule? Are you talking about
The governor's report
Yeah.
and the posting.
Posting.
Yes, all that stuff applies. So the requirements that you,
The
Charter first.
financial.
okay, so all that stuff is still there. So the governance report needs to be posted, all the website postings. If you go to our website, this is just free out there. It's we got a couple websites, texascharterlaw.com, texascharterlaw.com, easy to remember, or you can go to k12law.com or a couple other ones. If you click on our little blog link, and the website's being redone right now, but there's a blog link. If you click on that, we've got actual free advice. You can actually join the blog, and at least once or twice a month, we put up a free alert to all. It's for our clients, but you know, your friends here. Go on if you're a client, you're even better. But we have like the website posting, like one of the big schools called us and said, Joe, we want you to put a memo together on website postings. We said, sure, no problem, we did it. And then we got like 20 calls, hey, what am I supposed to do? I said, man, I'm just putting this up on the blog. because, you know, everyone needs to learn this. I'll just get it out there. But watch the blog. It has required website postings. You are supposed to post your superintendent's contract, okay? Or you're supposed to post your salary. Now, here's what you can do with that. School First requires you either post your contract or put it in your report, your first report, right?
Right.
I don't think you post your salary, because then it's just a big, you know, salary. Here it is. I think you post your contract, but do it in the first report. Now, some of you are saying, well, we haven't done that before. Well, yeah, I'd rather have your contract posted, where they have to go find it, and then they have to dig through the contract and to find your salary, than just have a big figure that says salary.
Yeah.
I mean,
Superintendents aren't on contracts.
yeah. So it's your at will agreement.
Yeah.
It's your at will agreement. Some don't have that. Some people don't have those agreements. Then, you know, let's create a little memo. I don't know. But yeah, if I was a superintendent, I'd want an agreement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of vulnerable without it.
So that's sendable too, but all the posting requirements are there. But we're waiting on rules and everything else. Let me look through my notes, see if there was any.
So the renewal is on hold, that's the latest? No renewals are being,
If you've already got your renewal application in, they should be processing that under the existing standards.
okay.
If your renewal's coming up, I don't know what's going to happen. Like if you're supposed to be renewing this year, I've heard that they're going to proceed. I've also heard that they're going to wait for new rules to come out. And I've heard both of that from the agency. So I don't know what the answer is to that. Call Ron Rowell, blow up his phone, right? I don't think he knows either, right? I don't think because I haven't heard that it's been decided. Leroy, have you heard anything? Yeah.
But like the Generation 3 charters, we should be hearing something soon?
Some of us have started hearing something. Some of us have gotten renewals in the mail where they're sending the funny addresses and we're having to track them down, and they renewed us 3 months ago and didn't tell us.
Share my story, Joe.
Steve got renewed. We've been harking the agency for months. Where's our renewal? Where's our renewal? And everyone said, oh, it's in process, it's in process. And then finally, like last week, finally I got a response, oh, we renewed it 3 months ago. And I'm like, well, how come last week when I asked you, you said, oh, it's in process? And now we know it was renewed 3 months ago. So we got a problem where the left hand's not talking to the right hand. Other real quick thoughts on STAAR, some things I think are important. You know, we can talk about nepotism and all that stuff, but the criminal history reporting, now, and the hiring eligibility, they made it so you can hire felons now, so you can hire, look, here's the thing. They lowered our standards where now, before, if someone had a felony or they had a misdemeanor involving moral turpitude, you could not hire them. Now, they thought they were tightening the belt, right? By bringing us into the school district standards. The school districts have lower standards. They can hire people with felonies unless they're felonies involving the person, so like offenses against another person like assault, sexual assault, things like that, murder, or if they have to register as a sex offender, even if it's a misdemeanor, and certain other crimes. But I would suggest that charters, you know, we get enough negative attention from time to time, right? So you probably want to keep your criminal history eligibility requirements tight. I wouldn't say go out and hire felons, because even these school districts, when they hire someone with a felony, the newspaper, the TV, what do? They jump all over it. And just because you can, doesn't mean you should. Other questions? Any hot topics anyone want to hear about?
In reference to the accreditation process, some of us, well, we have been pending forever. I had a conversation with Catherine Jones this morning, still pending. We're out of intervention, we're still pending, and no one knows. That's the frustration of it. And I know we can't have our charter renewal with it pending. No, it should have been pending. So what should we do? Or what can we do?
What's your current status?
It's pending.
Who else is pending? Okay, you know, I would suggest that you write a letter, not just a phone call, to the Commissioner of Education, and then copy the Charter Division, and say, we've been pending, we're a Generation 3, Generation 4 charter school, we submitted our renewal application on this date, this is why it goes to the Commissioner, because he doesn't know these things, but his staff will alert him. We submitted our renewal on this date, it's been pending now for 6 years. And we would like to know, we understand that the agency's overburdened, we understand they're short-staffed, but if there's anything you would like us to do to resolve any concerns, it's obvious there must be some concerns. If there's anything we can do to address those concerns, please let us know. And then follow up with a phone call to Heather Mosey at the Charter Division. Hey, I sent this letter a week ago to the Commissioner. What is holding it up? If there's something holding it up, because instead of us calling her, where's it at, where's it at, where's it at, there must be a concern. What is it we can do to address that concern? Because often your renewal might be being held up by one person. There might be an auditor, it might be someone in the special ed department, it might be someone in attendance accounting, it might be someone in federal programs. One person can hold up your renewal. One person. And if you're a client, you can call me and I can actually call TEA Legal, and I've done this for a few. Hey, Karen Johnson, what's going on here? Well, attorney to attorney, what do we need to do? And then she'll be like, off the record? I'll be like, sure, off the record, whatever that means. And then she's like, well, here's the problem. This auditor says this is going on. I'm like, okay, let me take care of that. And then I come back to you and I say, hey, this is off the record, except it's not. This is what we need to do. And we address it, we get it submitted, and then guess what? A month or two later, done. But you just need to be proactive. And I would say, show them that you understand there may be concerns, but what are they? What can we do to alleviate those? Okay, always put your best foot forward.
Joe, I guess, I know you know that school that got closed down a couple weeks ago about the background and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I guess without reading that article, and I've talked to a couple people about it, I understand background important, you gotta do that. Don't want nobody to hit our campus till anything clear, you know, but was it more to it than that, just snatch, just.
Okay, so here's what I've heard, and I don't represent them, don't.
Yeah, I know, I'm just.
Here's what I've heard, you guys want to know the gossip, turn that camera off. So, obviously, the superintendent didn't have his fingerprints run, they got parents complaining, the news media looking into it, they've got people that have child endangerment felonies and other very serious crimes that are working there. The agency had sent them letters for months and months, maybe even a year, saying, get your background checks done, get your fingerprints done, and they kept saying, oh, we're working on it, and then finally, oh, we didn't know how to do it, we were confused, that kind of stuff. And there was like 17 employees without background checks and a bunch of criminals working there. Okay, so I've had schools where we've been in that situation because we go to the service center and they say, hey, we're backlogged, we're not gonna be able to get the fingerprints for 6 months. You know, that's happened, okay? But I think it was how they approached it with the agency, and then all of a sudden there were allegations of accounting issues, of compliance issues, of allegations of fraud and financial mismanagement. And all of a sudden the commissioner's like, well, I can let these guys hire Hoffer's firm and we'll drag it out for 5 years. We'll never close them, right? We'll keep them in the court for a while. Or I can come in, I've got this justification under the education code. It says they can revoke you for health and safety issues, right? So instead of going through and actually investigating and doing the audit of all the financial issues, which would have taken 2 to 3 years, I think the commissioner said, I can cut their head off right here because they've been ignoring us on the criminal background checks. And if you read the letter, the commissioner said, in response to their attorney's letter, said, how can I trust you with our children? We've been giving you months. We've told you to go get your background check. We've told you to get fingerprinted, and you haven't done it. Even you, superintendent, you haven't done it. How can I trust you with our kids? And you're closed, that's it. Now, I don't know if it's the end game. I mean, maybe they're gonna appeal, but the reality is once they cut your money off, what happens?
You closed.
You're closed. You're insolvent, right? You're insolvent. And even if they reopen you, can you ever recover from that?
No.
Yeah. All right.
I have a question. I think the last time you were here that I was here, you were talking about the funding that you were working on with the state. What's the status of
Oh, the school finance lawsuit? Okay. That's a great question. We're going back to trial in January. Judge Dietz, the lovely, great Judge Dietz, in case he ever sees that, he's decided because the rich school districts, you know, I hate to say that, but the property wealthy school districts, they've decided they need to put on more evidence. And that they need to put evidence on from the last legislative session. The state has said, yeah, let's put on evidence about the legislative session because the legislature fixed everything. And so now this court is basically, everything's moved. Okay, so, you know, I think it's just attorneys wanting more work. We're certainly done, but now we're being thrown back into trial in January for another month of trial where the court wants to hear new evidence about stuff, frankly, that we don't even know about. We don't know what the impact of the last legislative session is going to be. We don't know what the testing results are going to be for, what, a year or two? We don't know what the money's going to mean. We don't even know what the money's going to be, you know, really. So it's a big issue. Justice Enoch, former Justice Enoch of the Supreme Court, he's representing the interveners. And they actually filed a challenge to that, basically to have the judge throw the whole case out, or at least most of the case. So that's going to be heard, I think, either tomorrow or early next week. but right now we're going back to trial. So I'm sure the Charter Association is probably going to be saying, hey, this is unexpected, we've got budget shortfalls, we've already had budget shortfalls, but another month of trial plus 2 months of discovery, guess what? Very expensive. So I'm sure there's going to be a plea for additional assistance, but this case is very important. This case is very important for charter schools, for facility funding, and more importantly for your children, to make sure that if they choose to go to your school and you're tasked with doing the same thing, that you at least have equal footing to do that.
That's right. Well, it makes it hard to grow when you're operating on less funding too. I mean, if you're in a catch-22.
And I want to caution you all as well, when it's hard to grow, you know, there are developers out there that are willing to come in and give you some money, but there's strings attached. And so when you start looking at, because they're actually flooding the market now, we're seeing them come in, they'll probably be at the conference, these charter school development firms that have money to lend with real estate investment trust, and they put these big beautiful buildings up for you. What you'll see is they've gone from state to state. You know, they were in Utah, then they're in California, then they're in Arizona, then they're up in Oklahoma, now they're in Texas trying to come here. Well, they've saturated markets, right? But watch the terms of those when they come in, because money's expensive. So make sure you get your accounting staff, your legal team to look at those things before you start borrowing money to make sure you can afford it.
We're experts at operating on a shoestring.
You got it, yeah. All right, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Joe. We appreciate you coming down. I'm hoping that everyone enjoyed today's meeting as I've done. I mean, I think this was just awesome, great information. I want to introduce Miss Julia Askew. Julia is new. The Evolution Academy just moved to Houston from Dallas, and Julia is the leader here in Houston. Thank you for joining us today. Let's see, our Southwest schools, they're here today. Thank you so much. Thank you very much to Leroy Salangi and his beautiful wife. They've joined us from Beaumont. So thank you all for joining us today. And to all of our special guests, tentatively I'll be working with Jesus on November the 7th. So I'll kind of talk to Jesus and we'll shoot an email out.
I just want to say a quick thing. I would like to solicit your involvement in sending your parents to the Parent Involvement Statewide Initiative. It is sponsored by Region 16. It's for the state of Texas. And the conference is going to be from December the 5th through the 7th. It's for your parents or your teachers or your coordinators. It's normally a conference that's 50% educators, 50% parents. They learn all types of strategies and how to work with the parents how to work with the school. It's very fun. The parents have a great time. The educators have a great time. And they have key speakers and workshops, and it's very beneficial. You can use your special ed money if you're sending parents that have special ed students. You can use your Title I funding, of course, because it's Title I statewide. And you can also use your mobility funding if it's a child that's out of, that, is in your area, mobile to mobile. You can use homeless money. If that child's parent is homeless, you can utilize that. We are sending our parents because it's so close. It's in Galveston, Texas. Okay. It's at the Galveston Convention Center this year. So I have flyers, take as many as you want. Some in Spanish, some in English. Give it out to your parents. Give it out to your teachers, your staff. It is very beneficial. And we know that parental involvement is more than fluff. It's how we manage to have our children become very successful in this day and time. So please take advantage of that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. East. Thank you very much. As you know, those of you who are attending today, we do receive certificates for attendance, so we can make certain that we're keeping up with our training hours. I would strongly suggest that if you would like to invite your principals and or other executive staff to these meetings for the continuing education credit, you invite them to the next meeting. So are there any other, yes sir?
When we first started meeting students, we had conversations about some directors possibly being responsible for communication, or I don't know if everybody's like me. I get so many emails, so much information that I don't have time to discern all of it. But is there some way that this group can have a website or something where we know that when we go to it, those are things that benefit us? and I won't have to decipher whether, no, I don't need to read this. No, I know that just what Yvette was sharing, I know that when I get back, I know I'm going to lose it. I'm trying to give it to someone, but I don't want to lose that, because if I could go to our site or someone that communicates with us, then we can always.
You say you'll have it?
We have that, every time that we meet here, we put the materials on there, on our website.
All right, then.
I'll send a link to everybody.
Please.
Now, has everybody received my emails? Does everybody receive the invite?
Yes.
Is there anybody that did not receive my invite last time? Okay, then we'll continue with that.
And maybe what we can do as we plan the agenda for the next meeting, opposed to having guest speaker the first hour, maybe we can just kind of discuss, you know, some of these other matters, concerns that we have, and how do we want to organize moving forward. So that was very good.
Yeah, and I wanted to say before we leave, because I talk with Steve a lot, and I know I don't get a chance to communicate because I'm like the swamp, but I think that us as small school districts who trying to grow are going through the same problems. And I think, you know, and I was listening at the Charter School Association yesterday, and I hear the big picture, and I'm not knocking them, but I don't think it's focused a lot on what we as small schools need to do sometime, because, you know, we all had to go to meetings and formal hearings and things like that, and I don't feel like we get the kind of support we can from them, because they know what's going on with every one of our school districts. If Steve got to go to informal hearing, they'll at least want to call to find out what's going on, or you got your material together, you know, different things like that, making sure that we can be around, because we all have different problems and circumstances that put us in situations that we shouldn't be in, but you got to deal with it. You know, and I guess I'm saying maybe we can use this as a network where we all could kind of come together. You know, listen to something like Joe. So, okay, Joe, I got an informal hearing. You know, I know you're not representing me, but this is what we got going on. You know, we can give each other feedback or support each other, so we all can try to stay around. Because, you know, we all want informal hearing from being shut down, and we don't know what be going on. And some of us, you know, mistakes have been made, but, you know, most of them hadn't tried to do anything illegal or unethical. Just things happen sometimes. You know, and I think we need a forum that we all can work together to keep us around so we can grow.
And Joe's information was very helpful to me today. I just regret he didn't have more time.
I agree.
Because there's a lot of stuff to read. The new legislation is pretty time consuming to go through that. I found it very helpful, and I really appreciate it, Joe.
So, I mean, I agree with Steve. Maybe the first hour we just need to have something where we can talk about, you know, issues or the things we may be going through, just get feedback.
Well, I just want to say, that's why it's important to attend everything.
I agree.
Because now you know where the association's mission and vision is. But it's not something that is state, that's a national vision, okay? That's a national. So when you're looking at what nationally, what is expected of charter schools, okay? And then you have these charter schools in Texas. And then we have like small schools like yours and ours and Thomas and Steve's and all of that. What we have to do, so now you know, okay, these are the things we have to do to maintain where we are.
Yeah.
You know, like I didn't go to the national convention, but it was good that Joe said that the national convention says they're not going to support us anymore. So therefore, what we have to do is we have to look at what we are, how we can expand, how we can make it work so that we can hold on to what we have. Because what we do is very important too.
Right, but they look at numbers, and a lot of us trying to get there, but we got to get through the mud, you know.
Well, right, and the main thing is facilities.
Yeah.
Like I would never want to grow 600 on one campus.
Yeah.
But I would like to grow small campuses
Right.
in different areas.
Right.
However, you need facilities for that.
Yes, right.
You know.
With
So,
money.
Yeah.
Got to have money.
Okay.
Well, I think the meeting is very important what we're doing, but we need to get more substance out of it that can benefit us as a small fish in big ponds can eventually be a big fish in a small pond.
And most of us are from the Houston area, so what applies to us would be important to us.
Exactly.
Not necessarily the Dallas schools,
Yeah.
or although we
Different
do
regions have different
interact with
problems.
them too. The governance report is due by November first.
Oh, and also don't forget to have your legal,
Charter first.
Yes, with your hearing, your
Public
your
hearing.
financial
Public
hearing.
hearing about your first.
Yeah, don't forget.
Sometime in
Deadline is
October.
November 1st for those of us who want a fiscal year that ends August 30.
August 31. Right.
That's 31.
Or else.
So don't forget, share your report.
Just some wonderful news, and it's wonderful news because Girls and Boys Prep, they've broken ground and they're building their first building, and that's important for us because we're stakeholders in the Farmington Southwest area, and to see that sign up and to see one of the mother school, all right, to be able to build its first building. That is Superintendent Dunn isn't here. But I
Yeah, in
celebrate
her
that.
absence, right?
Yeah.
All righty, all right. Thank you all so much for coming.